The state of New York is about to reopen the rent aid applications, even though the eviction moratorium has been going on for 2 months since they halted taking those applications. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of New York. So back in November, the state of New York stopped taking applications for rental assistance. Now, I'm not a fan of rental assistance programs, but I will say that because there is still a state eviction moratorium going on, they really needed to be getting this money to landlords because otherwise these landlords were just taking huge losses. So yeah, the tenants, they were allowed to stay for free. The landlords weren't getting paid. And in my opinion, that right there is a constitutional violation. You know, it's an unconstitutional taking of property without just compensation. And that's why these eviction moratoriums should be completely shut down. They shut down their rental assistance program and landlords couldn't get paid. Now, that doesn't mean that even all landlords qualified for rental assistance, and that's another story. But, now it looks like a judge up in New York has ordered them to reopen the program, and that is good news. Now, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of all the nonsense going on up in New York State. Do you really think that the state eviction moratorium is going to end here in about a week? I believe it's set to end on January the 15th, and I'm recording this, on January the 8th. So if this video is released a little bit later and the moratorium has come to an end, then that's great news for the landlords up there. I did read an article today saying that the Governor Hochul, I believe that's her name, that she is leaning towards letting the eviction moratorium expire. But who knows if their city or local eviction moratoriums won't be put into place in New York City or in the various counties throughout the state, or if maybe her bluff will get called and she'll just be like, yeah, let's extend it again at least till winter is over. Who knows? But we'll see. Anyway, this article comes from SpectrumLocalNews.com, and it says, New York to reopen rent aid applications, halted since November. And let's get into it. New Yorkers will again have the chance to apply for pandemic rental aid and temporary protection from eviction under a state court order issued Thursday. State Supreme Court Judge Lynn Kotler of the 1st Judicial District issued a preliminary injunction ordering the state to reopen its application portal for rent relief in 3 business days. New York stopped accepting rental assistance applications November the 15th. And like I said, that is completely wrong that they kept this eviction moratorium going when they had no rental assistance. There was no way that tenants and landlords could get rental assistance. I mean, it was a complete joke. New Yorkers who apply for rental aid are protected from eviction while the state reviews their applications. Governor Kathy Hochul, a Democrat, and officials for the State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance say New York has essentially run out of available funds. But 4 tenants and the Legal Aid Society sued New York in mid-December, arguing the state's decision abandoned potentially thousands of New Yorkers who are behind on rent but haven't applied for rental assistance. So yeah, I guess the way the New York State eviction moratorium works is if you apply for rental assistance, then you get the protections from the eviction moratorium. So I guess I was wrong about that. But these tenants are saying, hey, if you close down the application process, then we aren't protected. So now these landlords are filing for eviction against them. So I didn't realize that. So yeah, that kind of changes a little bit of what I said earlier, but it kind of goes to show you too that this program is a complete mess still. Okay, the eviction moratorium still, it needs to be gotten rid of because this sort of situation, it shouldn't have even been happening. Okay, these tenants who aren't able to get rental assistance, they're just out of luck. They need to go. That's it. That's my opinion. But I think they just need to move on, find a new place, and these landlords need to be able to rent these tenants or rent their units out to other tenants who are able to pay. It is now abundantly clear that the Hochul administration violated the law when it prematurely closed the ERAP portal, denying thousands of families access to funds and safe harbor from eviction, said Ed Josephson, supervising attorney in the Civil Law Reform Unit at the Legal Aid Society. Housing advocates say Thursday's ruling protects families vulnerable to eviction when New York's statewide moratorium expires January the 15th. A spokesperson for the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, Anthony Farmer, said the court's ruling is under review and the agency will respond accordingly. Hochul hasn't said whether New York should extend the eviction moratorium. Well, if they're out of money, I mean, what are they supposed to do? They can't provide funds to these people. They are literally out of money. And they're telling them, hey, well, you have to let these people sign up. Well, they don't have any money. We can't pay rental assistance for these people because we're broke. But, reading what's going on up in D.C. and all that, I've read recently that they are trying to reallocate the funds from areas where rental assistance has not been used as much and sending it to areas where it's more in need. And so basically what that means is they're taking a lot of money from states like where I live in Nebraska that haven't used all their rental assistance funds, and they're shipping it off to blue states where for some reason there's a lot more people in states like New York who aren't working and need this rental assistance and need the government to take care of them. I wonder why. Not surprised. New York has spent about half of its $2.4 billion in federal rental relief funds. The state is holding much of the unspent money aside for applications with paperwork issues. Hochul had asked the federal government for as much as $1 billion in extra rental aid. However, the U.S. Treasury's emergency housing team in a December 30th email told New York officials the state would only receive $27 million. Okay, wow. So if the state's only getting an additional $27 million, I mean, it sounds like, hey, they're just out of luck, okay? So they had good reason to close this rental assistance program. It doesn't sound like they're going to be getting any more funds, and I imagine that New York State is one of the places that got some of the most funds out of any place in the entire country. Obviously, they are one of the higher population states throughout the entire country, and they have one of the biggest cities with the most renters in the entire country in New York City. So it doesn't surprise me that they got allocated so much money. The fact that they're holding half of the money to the side right now, just in case there's application errors or paperwork errors and people who had problems before, that seems a little bit odd, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't necessary. Okay, so man, this is a nightmare, and it sounds like the judge reopened this program even though there's no money in it. But the reasoning being that these people would be allowed to apply and then they would get to live for free on the backs of landlords. Okay. Now, that isn't a way to do things. They basically turned landlords like us into homeless shelter, into social service provider when the state can't afford to actually pay to house these people. That's completely wrong. So hopefully when the eviction moratorium ends on January the 15th, if the state is not getting any additional rental assistance funds, these landlords need to get these people out of their properties. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.